Hello, Charlie Freak. How are you?
Hi, Mark. We're doing great here. And thank you for having us on your wonderful show. It is what we were going to have you on our show, and then we didn't have a show. So,
Yeah, I kind of noticed that. It was, I'm laughing all the time now because I just, I think it was a show I did with you a couple of weeks ago when you said it was going to be like, it was like Keystone Cops and Scooby Doo, and it is.
it is.
It's incredible, isn't it?
It is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah, everything happens for a reason, and I don't think we were meant to have sort of a part in this 10 days of darkness. Like we shared with everyone from the beginning, 10 days of darkness is a metaphor. So if it takes 3 days, great. If it takes 3 months, then that's what it is. But to reassure everyone again, this will not go on for much longer. I think what we're looking at is that January was ramping up what the little clues are being sent every single day to make it so clear that Biden is not in charge. It's ridiculous how many things have been now shown that he's not in charge at all. And with all these CEOs being forced to step down,
Bezos today.
from Amazon, he's in charge, yeah, no. But so January is ramping this up and giving us signs and clues that everything's okay. But February is going to be hell on earth, and it needs to be. And that's why Trump needs to be removed from all of this, because he can't have a hand in, because they'll just blame it on him.
Yeah.
So he can't have a hand in what's to come in February, and then the mop up in March. But everything is biblical. It's all biblical. So the real new year, of course, is always the first sunlight of March 22nd. So always March 22nd. So
Charlie, I get this. One of the things that's happened to me is I get the spider tingle whenever I hear something like this. That's true. And I've been getting 322, 322 everywhere for months. And I talked to JCK about it, and I think I mentioned it a few times. But when you said March 22nd, then big download. Yeah. And I'm taking it as that date because I know it's a Skull and Bones number, right?
Exactly, but that's
they
perfect.
hijacked it.
They hijacked it, so it's dark to light. It's just, and all of this has been dark back to light. And there's no greater light than the rebirth of men and the Lord of men on March 22nd, the first light of March 22nd, because that is, Jesus becoming the light of the world. And then that's what we have to do. We have to become the light of the world. And so what 107 has said from the very beginning, even more so than January 20th, he's always said that you need to be on the right side of this by April 1st, because if not, you will become the fool. And that is a very allegorical statement and reference, and it's true. And people need to get themselves, so people have got this. That's why February is going to be a month of hell on earth, because people need to see what the heck this has really all been about. And it's, once it starts coming, there will be no way to stop it, and there'll be no way to slow it down. And in fact, it'll only increase in these revelations that come out. And then people need to get on the right-hand side of this before April 1st, or they will become the fools. So yeah, it's incredible.
It is. At the start of this, I wanted to thank you, because I've never thanked you, because it's the first time we've actually spoken like this. Especially for the thing that you did with Mark Devlin last year, because I think that was one of the greatest summations of Donald Trump and everything that's been going on. It was the greatest. It was brilliant. It was so brilliant. And it gave me a lot of courage to do what I've been doing in the last 5 or 6 months. So I want to thank you for that.
Which is great, Mark. What you've been doing is great, because what you're saying and doing is based in the truth. And then you're giving so much strength. There's so many words we get attached to it, but ultimately you're giving strength, and you do it through humor. You do it, but also with just such great wisdom. So it's easy for people to latch on to your teachings, because they're very beautiful. They're very beautiful. They're coming from the right side of things, and that's missing, because there's so many people in the truth community that are still in denial of all of this stuff, and they're coming. You just see they're coming from the left brain, and
Yeah.
I think at this point with them it's ego. I don't see that ego with you at all. I don't see the ego with JC. She puts herself out there constantly.
No, there's none there.
You know, like we were both doing for a while, you know, a long while, no sleep and whatnot, you know, because we have to serve at this point. We have to help as best as we can, and we just have to serve. And that's the right side of things. But there's a lot of people coming at this from the left-hand path.
Yeah, I think, you know, one of the reasons that I was maybe reluctant to do what I've been doing publicly is because I was going through all the mistakes I'd made in my life and all the things I'd done wrong and all the people I'd upset, and I was like, oh, you know, can I do this? But I don't know if I told you, I've had a lot of near-death experiences in my time, including out-of-body experiences. I should have died 5 or 6 times. But I was really depressed 2 years ago, like suicidally depressed. And that was the moment everything changed. And when I got out of that, I've just been absolutely amazed by these experiences with God are just almost indescribable. And they're very personal, but they're almost indescribable, because how do you tell somebody that you can feel a spirit within you? You can hear things, or you have a knowing. And this has actually been going on for me for quite a long time. But at the same time it was going on, I was also a bit of an idiot, and I was still making mistakes, and I was still coming from the ego, and I didn't know how to handle it. And, you know, seeing your work and a bunch of other people on this internet that they created as a weapon against us, now we're using it against them, which is beautifully ironic. Just, it's such important work. And I've not once thought about how I get hundreds of emails every day from people thanking me, and I'm like, I'm just a bloke in a kitchen writing a few poems. Because I've not been interested in the praise or even the arrows. You know, I'm not interested in it at all, because I'm like, I've got this thing to do. And it was literally like a rope coming out of my heart, pulling me towards doing it. And the thing is, everybody's got access to this, and it's not, you know, we're not special people. I don't feel like a special person. I've had an interesting life. I've done some interesting things, you know, but I've been an idiot the same as everybody else. And it's time to get past that, because that's gone. And where we're going, forgiveness of yourself is, I think, the key thing. And I think one of the reasons why they've kept such a grip on humanity is because what the demons do is they whisper in your ear very gently, and you don't even know they're there. It's like it becomes part of you, and you think it's you. And I think people have done possibly things that are possibly really terrible, and it keeps them locked in position. And the majority of people are not like that. The majority of people on the planet have probably been abused in some way, but it's time to move beyond that. You know, we've got to go forward as a human race. And, you know, the strength that you've given me has just been amazing. And I'm just passing that on, because it's not from you or me, it's from God, right? And I find it amazing that I'm even saying that sentence out loud in public, because I spent so long, you know, dismissing religion, dismissing God. And the things I've learned from you in the last 9 months have just been extraordinary. So, and I think about them a lot, and they really, really make sense to me. And I just, you know, thank you again.
Again, you're so welcome, and you're so right about all of this, that there's through all of this, there's been really no room for the praise, or, like you say, the arrows through this, because you know, JC's like that, and you know, obviously you're doing it, and we've been doing it as well, which is, you're just serving. It's a service. It's just something you have to do. We had to do this, and there was just no question we had to do this. So there's no really room for the praise or the arrows. There's just the doing of the work, and that's your life, and that's the measure of a man, to become the Mar. I was sharing this with Colleen again, because we're writing that book about the hieroglyphics of the English language, and just explaining how every letter is a complete world in and unto itself, and it explains everything. And then every letter is in order in relation to every other letter, and that's why each letter is a number as well. And they're all telling this one story, which is our purpose, our journey, the one journey that we all have to do. And until we do it, we go around here until we go here, up and to the right. We go up and to the right, you know, on that March 22nd, whenever that day comes around for us. And so that's what this is all about, is man to Mar. And it's interesting because when you look at the word man, it's Ma, which is the mother, and then the N. And the N is a very largely misunderstood word, because it comes right after the middle of the alphabet, which is 13 of 26, which is the mother, which, by the way, is the heart chakra, which is the middle path, which is 4 of 7, which is the middle way. And that's so M is what it's all about. And when we get to the letter M, there's this awakening within us, because it's the mother Kundalini rising within us, which is magnetism, which is motion, which is the scalar wave, which is rising. It's constantly rising. Electricity, downward causation. So we constantly fall and skin our knees. That's why we are man with the N, because just physically look at the letter N. It's the R. It's the R. Just do the small R and the small N, and you have to make an R to do the N. It's just that you can't sustain the R, and we fall back again. But that's okay, because God loves a trier.
Well, yeah.
So then you look at the heart and soul of, say, Professor Tolkien or C.S. Lewis and all of their works, and what they wrote predominantly about. They wrote incredible stories, but what they really wrote about is that man must always be the trier, because the moment that we despair is the moment that we stop trying. And once you stop trying, it's over. They've won. They've won if you stop trying. But if you keep trying, no matter how long it takes, you will get there. It's the Magenta Pixie calls this inevitability, the inevitability of man to win out. Truth will out, because it's inevitable. It will ultimately happen. It's only a question of when we find our courage. That's why, again, you see these certain stories, like the Wizard of Oz being at the center of all the truth and the truth movement, because that they're writing about this one story where we have to find our courage, we have to find our heart, we have to find our spine, our strength within us to be able to go on this passage, because we've made things so bad for us by consenting that now it's become a big task. It never needed to be a big task, but it is now. And that's okay. You just have to have heart. You have to have strength. And, you know, you've got to have this ability within yourself to face your demons. And that's the thing. They're the demons that we've made by allowing ourselves to despair. And that's the man not trying. So MAN is the mother in the man who is rising and falling, because that's what we do. We're electrical, so we fall, we skin our knees, and the mother lifts us back up, and then we fall back down. She lifts us back up. That's the N and N and N and N. But eventually we have to become, and you're gonna love this.
Yeah, I'm making notes.
You have to become the Mar, M-A-R, and that's the C. And don't you see that until you become the C, you will not see upon the horizon. You will not have the hori vision of Horus, which again, H is the breath of God, or is gold. So it's the golden breath of God, I is divine, 9 is divine, and vision is what we see. So we have to have the horizon vision. And we can only achieve that if we become the Mar, which is the C. And Mar is for Mary. And if it's French, it's Mare, but that's still Mary, or Mercedes, which is still Mary. It's It's the sacred feminine mother. So we have to rise and rise again, my lambs, until rise and rise again until the lambs become the lions. So MAN, we have to become MAR. And that is the mother rising within us, which is the Kundalini. It's the only way. It's the only story. There's no other story that has ever been written. Everything that Hollywood does is a perversion of the one story. Everything we try to do, and everything that Mark does so brilliantly with his poems, which are truly, truly brilliant. They truly are. And they're a variation of the one story, and you're telling the truth, and you're explaining what's been going on, and that's the journey of man to Mar.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I felt like sometimes I felt like I'm repeating myself, but I'm following the guidance of what's right. And there's tons of things you brought up there. Firstly, I've been telling people to watch Lord of the Rings recently, because I watched it with my son the other week, and I haven't watched it for a few years, and I've not read the book for 20 odd years, but I was just reminded of the incredible courage of the characters. Every character's courage is just so inspirational. And I do find the humor in that story, in those films, incredible too. Yep. To the point where me and my eldest son greet each other in the morning, like, morning, Mr. Frodo. Who's making breakfast, Mr. Frodo? It's the Shire, Mr. Frodo. We just love it. And we watch it, it's just like every step, Frodo's journey is just unbelievable, right? And Samwise Gamgee, I mean, everybody has to go back and watch it. It's just incredible. Or read the book if you've got time, but watch the movie.
Samwise Gamgee is
Hello, Colleen.
Every man. He's every man. That's brilliant. That's brilliant, Mark.
I know, it's just wonderful. But then this crazy thing happened, Charlie, I've got to tell you. So before all of this happened, I was like, my mum called me Mark Antony. She had no idea why. As soon as she knew she was pregnant, I was Mark Antony, right? And she'd never read Shakespeare or anything. So that was weird. And then I moved to Manchester, and I lived in Markington Street. And then I ended up working in marketing, which I never understood why. Then I moved to Marrakesh. And I was like, well, what are all these MAs following me around in my life? Really, really strange. And then I spoke to a shaman last week from New Zealand. And he said the word Ma, it means first light or light. And he taught me this thing, Ma Ha Ka Ta. It was like, it was like light, heart, soul, stone, blah blah blah. But I haven't memorized it all yet. But then I ended up writing a poem.
Yep. And we read it this morning.
Oh, did you? Okay. And then he was talking about the distorted light and the undistorted light happening at the same time, was no fixed time.
It's incredible.
And that poem I ended up calling There and Back Again, which is the name of the book that Bilbo Baggins wrote. It's all there, you know. Yeah. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's wonderful.
And all of those two-lettered phonetical expressions or words that you wrote that came from the shaman in New Zealand, they all have powerful root meaning. So it's basically, you're looking at variations of mother, father, child, rising, and sort of the journey of the fourfold nature of man. So everything that you had there, I was reading that and we were just smiling, and I was just decoding it in real time as we went through it. And it's just the one story. It's incredible. No matter where you go to every culture, it's there and back again, which is the one story. You see, that's the thing about Tolkien and Lewis. These were not just, a couple of literary guys from Oxford or something. No. These are Essenes. These were the Gnostics. These were, how they came across all of the stuff is open to conjecture.
Well, I heard Tolkien say that
esoteric masters.
Yeah, sorry. I heard Tolkien, the interview in 1957 in Amsterdam, I think it was, where he said it was based on a true history of Earth.
Yeah.
And he had access to the books under the university, or that were hidden. But you know what's just hit me? When you were talking about the child falling over, scraping his knees and being picked up again, and this being representative of the constant, the Kundalini rising and then back again. That reminded me of a line out of Batman Begins, which was made by Christopher Nolan, who I believe to be an esoteric insider. I don't know if you'd agree with that. But when young Bruce Wayne falls down into the well and he's in bed, his father says to him, "Why do we fall? So we learn how to get up." And I'm like, it's everywhere. It's just everywhere. It's amazing.
And it's interesting that you say that, because just the other night I rewatched Batman Begins because I was called to rewatch it again, and you can just see that the Wayne family and is the Kennedy family, and that's Camelot, and that's John F. Kennedy, and that's the President Kennedy family, and John F. Kennedy Jr. And Batman Begins is what we're seeing in real time, for sure, is this parallel to falling down the well, which is the wishing well, which is the pineal gland. So that's what Camelot was all about, was creating this light in the world that President Kennedy was going to allow every country to draw from, and they could just wish their greatest wishes and draw from this eternal well, the Nasara protocols, and then spreading into the Jassara protocols. That's the realm, that's the plan that he and Bobby had in place, and that's why they had to take him out. And then the fall into the well is John F. Kennedy Jr. losing essentially, his entire family, because his uncle wasn't the same man, and within 5 years he was executed. And then Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King, and then his mother just lived in utter shock of what was going on, and his entire world was just taken from him. So he had to face his worst fears. And so John F. Kennedy Jr. went into, and I know that there are the real truthers in this community are powerfully tied to John F. Kennedy Jr. and are receiving comms at a very personal, deep personal level, from this man, because this man went deep within himself to conquer his fears, to be able to get to a point where he's on Jay Leno, and he's basically saying to the world, "Yep, the Clintons are the head figures of this cabal. They're completely evil, and we have to take them out. And this is my last performance, and I'll see you in 20 some odd years."
That's when he read the poem out from the young
Monica Lewinsky.
intern.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Monica Lewinsky named the poem Pizza.
Yeah, I know.
That's called the poem Pizza.
I mean, it's all there. It's all in plain sight. And so there's a load of things I want to talk to you about, but what you've triggered there is this idea that we've got until April the 1st to choose your side, effectively.
Yeah, true. So perfectly said.
I've chosen my side, by the way. I'm on your side, okay? I went up to the right there as well. I'm very, very conscious of this right and left thing. And it was interesting, yeah. So when you said about like in the left side, I was going round and round and round and round. I've told a few people this, that when I was in this really deep depression, it was like Groundhog Day. It was like every day I just find myself in the shower again at 8 o'clock in the morning or whatever, going, "Oh, I'm here again," and then I'd be there again, and it was hell on earth. It was horrible. And I had my first girlfriend, which there's loads of connections here to all of this. She committed suicide at the age of 28, and she was brought up in this religious cult that was in the village in my village. It started in the 60s, and the guy that started it was a paedophile who abused my dad when he was a choir boy. And her mother was one of the founders of this religious cult. And she was an extremely beautiful soul and intelligent. I always thought she was going to go on to be a famous novelist or something. But we stayed friends after we'd split up at university and stuff. And she called me, or I called her, when she'd been committed to a mental hospital. And I don't know who committed her there, but I said, what are you doing there? You're not mental. What are you doing there? She said, and she'd studied theology at university, which was an interesting choice considering what had happened in her childhood. And she said, Mark, this is hell. And I'm usually chipper and I was like, yeah, no, we all have our bad days. I was like, frothy. And she was going, no, this is literally hell. And, a few months later, she arranged for her mother to come to her house, and she took a load of pills and vodka before she got there. So her mother found her dead at the age of 28 or 27. And that's stayed with me for, 25 years now. My own journey has been like trying to understand. I think when I first understood the symbols, that the symbols are everywhere. If you drive your car, you've got Saturn in front of you. If you go on the London Underground, you're just Saturn everywhere. And as we know, these people worship Saturn, Satan. It's all combined with the same energy, right? And when I realized that frequency was coming in, and it's our pineal glands and pituitary glands and everything, that we're creating the reality from the inside. And we're creating it in the based upon the inputs that they're putting in. Yeah. So in a way, it is hell, or has been hell. And that's the darkness that we're now moving into, effectively heaven, if you want to continue that analogy. And as you say, heaven is the head and going to the right and on the righteous side of things. Am I rambling, or is any of this making sense?
No, it makes perfect sense, because again, you're sharing that one story, and yeah, that's what your girlfriend was experiencing as well. And those beautiful souls can only take so much of it before they need to press the reset button and try again. And that's why this the obfuscation of the true word or the true teachings it's like, at this point, there's so many people that think the Bible is just full of shit. It's just such a ridiculous book, and that it's, no, it's they dare not do much, and they haven't really done much. They've kept things out of it, of course, but they haven't done much to the Bible because they don't fully understand it. It's above them. It's way above them. So when they try to mess around with it, like in the beginning of Genesis, they get themselves into real trouble, and then they back right off because they didn't know that the group of people that wrote this, which are the essentials, the Essenes, the essence of us, these people knew the truth from top to bottom and there and back again. They knew the wholeness of this story. These people don't. They don't. They collect the truth, they keep it from us, but they don't fully understand what is being said in the truth. And the reason is because they live out there. They live out there. They are the Luciferian agenda. It's all, everything that they do, like you said, you get in your car and you see that symbol and you see the signs, and everywhere you look, everything that they do is pulling you out. So it's like Michael Corleone in Godfather 3, trying to, in one fell swoop, trying to heal all of the sins of his past by making this incredible deal with Immobiliare and turning this, the number one, real estate company in the entire world, land ownership in the entire world, into a beautiful sort of godly effort. And the higher Michael goes, the more demons that he finds. And Michael's, what is Michael Corleone said? Every time I think I'm out of them, they pull me back in again. See, it's the inverse. It's the inverse. Michael's going within himself to find absolution for all of his sins. And of course, when you know the story of Michael Corleone, it's tough to hate and judge Michael, because if you know that story, he was drawn into this. He was yeah, very, very beautiful.
When he went into the army to do the right thing, and he didn't want part of the business. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. When he came back, the entire family fell apart completely fell apart at every single level. And if he didn't step in, then everything he held to be true for him falls apart. And once you go into their world, you can't help but be like them. So again, there's this, Godfather 2 is a brilliant movie because it's showing Michael Corleone as the left brain. So in the first movie, we see him ultimately as Jesus Christ. He is a very a very pure, right, a virtuous, righteous soul who's just always trying to do the right thing. And you can't argue with them, with these demons that are trying to eradicate his family from existence. And he does what he thinks is right. And then the second movie, when you fall into that world and you play by their rules, then Michael becomes the monster.
Because here's the problem: when you become the ring bearer, when you start holding that ring, right? Nobody can handle that power.
No.
Except a hobbit. Or Tom Bombadil.
Well, right? I'm in Ireland, which is Hobbit land, which is Middle Earth, right?
Yeah. I love it.
And I'm quite short, so I don't know. My feet aren't that big, but I just want. This is what you just described. This is why I joined the military when I was a kid. I thought I was doing something really amazing, and I believed Queen and Country. I believed it all. And I used to deliver papers on my paper round to a woman who was married to a Second World War pilot, and I listened to her stories about him, and I became, I got chosen, and I got highest grades they'd had in years and years and years, and then I saw I saw them for who they really. I remember being in a officer's mess one night, and about 19 years old, and I was sat there with a couple of my friends, and I was watching these other pilots who were in their 30s, and just watching their behavior. And I was like, something really strong in me said, you don't want to be one of them. Did you really want to be that? And it was like, no. And the government were lying about stuff. They covered up the suicide of another friend of mine. And I was like, who am I working for? And I don't know if you know, but I've not told you this before, but I got this award, Duke of Edinburgh's award, which is Prince Philip. And I went there in my RAF uniform, because I had to delay getting it because my dad had died the year before. So I went there a bit later than most people, and it was at St. James's Palace. And I can still feel his hand, right? And here's just a little story I want to tell you, because you might find it interesting. This guy was like the commander in chief. He was our commander, right? He was like the ultimate commander. It was the Queen's Commission. That's what you're saluting. It's the Queen's Commission. And there he was, and he looked me up and down in this uniform. And he went, I see you've joined and then somebody had to whisper in his ear, Royal Air Force, sir, the Royal Air Force. And I was like 19, keen as mustard, ready to go at the world. And here's my commander in chief, and he didn't recognize my uniform. Yeah. And I looked at him and I gave him a sarcastic, and I was holding his hand, sarcastically said, that's right, sir. And he whipped his hand away, and he gave me this look. And I've never forgotten that look. He had the most unbelievably horrible eyes, and his skin, everything about him was disgusting. And then I decided to leave, and I resigned. And they tried to they sent somebody to see me once a month for like 18 months to stop me leaving, and tried to talk me out of it, take me out for dinner, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm going. And I think when I look at my own life, what I try to tell my kids is you have to step into the void. And it is an act of faith, right? So anybody out there that's watching this who's thinking about, how do I choose my side? Because I just don't know what's happening. Is Trump in charge? Is Biden in charge? You have to take a leap of faith. And that involves looking ahead into something that's completely, you don't know what it is, but you go anyway. And that's when magic happens. That's my experience.
Yeah, it's 100% entirely true. Yeah, 100%. And so, yeah, and everything you're saying is what you can see or hear so easily is that, you're explaining Michael Corleone's, right? And that's what Francis Ford Coppola was drawing out in the screenplays is this, and ultimately what that is, of course, is the prodigal son. So again, we start out in the home, in the house of righteousness. And then we go, because we have to. You can't just always stay there, or else you haven't had any journey. You have to journey. That's the nature of man. We were watching the original Star Trek episode last night with Dr. Daystrom and the M5 machine, and Captain Kirk being called Captain Dunsel, which is you sit back and you don't do anything because the machine does it all for you. And you know, and then the episode, the machine is incapable of deciphering between a war game and reality, and begins to attack and destroy his own kind. And therefore, he punishes himself through suicide when Captain Kirk explains what he's done. But you just see how this is that one story that without the journey. So it's like the scientist who created this machine is saying, you know, man doesn't need to go out into space and die for other worlds or for other. And it's like, yes, we do. Yes, we do. That's why we exist. Because it's our actions that give us our purpose, that give us our sense of self. It's this discovery. So it's a river. It's a river, and
it's the R.
It's the R, and we have to traverse this river, and we have to have the flows and the eddies, so that we can have the full understanding of what this is all about. So yes, we have to go on this journey. And of course, the very nature of man, God created all of this. So God created us as man, which is of the mother, rising and falling. So that's what we do. We rise and we fall, we rise and we fall, but rise and rise again, my lamb, so that until you become lions. That's the whole point of this. And that's the man going from the N to the R, and the R is for rising, which is the Kundalini rising. So when we embrace the mother, then we rise. And you look at any story, you look at any character, you look at anything. So for example, Michael Corleone in Godfather 3 was, I think he secretly hoped that he could at least become friends again with Kay, his first wife. And they did. They began to build a beautiful relationship. But for Michael, it was about the purity of his daughter and his relationship with his daughter, who was so a very pure, righteous girl. And that, of course, is the sacred feminine within it. So Michael found himself, the resurrection again, the wandering path of the movie 2 to come home in movie 3. He found that through the women in his life, through the sacred feminine, and that they must rise within him. He must become filled of the mother to be able to see the father. It's the only way. It's the only way. And at the end of the movie, it's a horrible ending, of course, because it's made in Hollywood, and Hollywood will only give you the one ending, which is that the Jesuits will come along and then they will kill your daughter. And then, the mother within you is destroyed. You're full of despair, and you keel over in a chair one day and you're dead. So we have to go from the N to the R. And the only way we can do that is if we journey, right? And so you look at this alphabet, and it's N, O, P, Q, R. So it's the O, P, Q that separates the N and the R. And you just, if you know what these letters mean, it tells you everything. Absolutely reveals everything about this journey. That's when this book is released, and all I need is just a little break from everything, and I'll be able to finish it.
You need people like me to start hassling you for interviews. That's what you need.
It's great, but it's an empowering work because it's a gift to you, and it allows every single person. It's very easy to read, very easy to understand, and then
I can't wait.
Apply it, and then it sets you free, because what we have found with our research, and we're not kidding, every single word in the English language has now been obfuscated, has now been turned upside down. We're not kidding. That's why we tell everyone, throw away your dictionaries, because a dictionary is, and remember, the first dictionary was the Oxford dictionary, which is the Ox blocking your path.
It's a spelling prison, isn't it? It's a prison of the mind, and it's casting again. And this is your computer sat on Phrase and Fable, right? You've seen Phrase and Fable. It's like a dictionary of stories. It's like 200 years or something. Yeah. And I was looking up the word abracadabra today. And what's interesting is that in this version I've got in front of me, abracadabra's there. There's a description. It said it used to be a magic word. Now it's just using conjuring tricks. And then it said it's related to the word abraxas, which is a Greek word. No mention of the demons, no mention of the true power of it. And I looked at a clip from 50 years ago, and abraxas was next to abracadabra, but it's not even, it's just mentioned briefly. And it has, you know, because abraxas is like a very, very powerful negative energy, right? And abracadabra is this extremely powerful word, and they just slip it in. This is what they do with all of their mind control. They just slip it in, so it's all mixed up, which is interesting. You know, when you were talking a minute ago, what the lyric that came to mind was Prince, Sign of the Times. Everybody still wants to fly. After, I think he talks about the rocket ship explodes and everybody still wants to fly. And this is one of the things that I connected with you when I started watching you. When I found out all about your music stuff, I was so, I would love to sit and read all those books you've written. I've just not had time to do it. I really would, because I've been talking to my son about lyrics for years and years and years. And so, all of these lyrics are spells, you know, and some of the people know what they're doing. Some people don't know what they're doing. But if you look at, and it's so interesting, it's much more interesting than just sitting and humming the tune, right? So thank you for those. I really want to read all those books. I'm just a bit busy in the meantime. Will we still have books the other side? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I hope so.
Absolutely.
I hope so. Proper books.
Absolutely.
And when you're talking about everything you've just described, perfectly describes every Tesla's free energy machines. It perfectly describes the Taurus. It's all there. It's all.
It is. And of course, Tesla's a real scientist because Tesla is a man of God, and he put God first, and he understood God's creation. So when Tesla talked about 0 point energy, it's returning home. Zero is the return to home point, which is what we all have to do. It's the correct reset, the right reset, which is the reawakening. Everything in the Bible is an R-E word. Re is life. It's constant life, because we keep reinventing ourselves all the time. We keep resurrecting ourselves all the time, because we're man rising, falling to become the R. So we're gifted endless opportunities to go from the N to the R, which tells you right away that we are eternal beings, of course. And the only thing that is eternal in the physical realm is the mother, which is magnetism, which is the scalar wave, which is the 8, which is eternal. Electricity is a transverse wave, and it is a downward, it's a downward causation. But when you look at a transverse wave, you can just see it perfectly in the ocean wave. Just think, none of this is accidental. It's all purposeful. It's all absolutely purposeful. It's what happens every night. Growing up as a young man, mom and dad had their house right next to the ocean in Victoria, British Columbia, Canada. And so I slept with my window open so I could really deep connection to the sea. And so when you live by the ocean, what you realize that every single there's a breeze upon the water. And then what it does is that the waves are constantly drawn powerfully to the shore. And then they come rushing in to the shore, and then they come back as foam and then the wave is over until such time that the breath of God, the only way that a wave can form is if there's the wind, which is the breath of God. And then when there's the breath of God, then that wave, which was dead, resurrects into a wave again. And so that's the transverse, that is transverse energy. That is a transverse wave. It's an oscillating ocean wave. And then you can see our lives as the ocean wave comes to the shore, and the shoreline is like this because it's rising to the land. And so the ocean wave, which is oscillating, as it's oscillating, it hits the bottom of this rising bed, and then it thrusts itself upward violently for 65 years or 70 years. And then it crashes in a glorious crash upon the shore and washes back in the foam and the sand and the foam. until such time that the breath of God gives it life again. And then it starts again, and it does it every day, every single night, and it does it again and again. So the ocean is the ultimate parable for what man is, M-A-N. And then what you realize is that when you wake up to this and you go, okay, wait a minute. So the ocean is the mar, which is, or the mare or mar, which is Mary. And the white sand of the shore is, of course, is the purity of the Father, and that the mother constantly sends the child, which is the wave, which is us, her children, rushing into the Father, so we can connect with the Father in every single moment, again and again and again in this lifetime. When you wake into this and you go, wow, this story is beautiful, it is seamless, it is perfect beyond description, and I just want this. I don't want anything else. I don't want a job, I don't want money, I don't want, a praise, I don't want any of these. I just want this story in my life. That's when you go on this journey, the hero's journey. And that's why it always starts down in the dungeon, and the mother is chained behind a dragon. You have to slay the dragon, and then you don't know the way. So then once you rescue the princess, she then knows the way, and she leads you to where it is. And invariably, it's always at the top of the castle, in the highest room at the top of the castle, which is, the pineal gland, and then which is a portal to the Father. And then you have this alchemical marriage of the mother and the father, the silver and the gold, the yin and the yang. But with every marriage, you have to have a witness, Jehovah's Witness. Who's Jesus Christ? Jesus Christ is Jehovah's Witness, because he's the best man. He absolutely was, until someone supplants him. He absolutely was and is the best man at the wedding of the Father and the mother, this alchemical marriage. And he led the mother up the aisle and put her hand into his hand. And there they became unified again, unified as one. You see, that's the diamond. That's the whole point. There's her, this is him, and that's her. And then Jesus put the hand of her into him, and then this connected to that and unified into the diamond. And that's what the child is. That's what we are. And that's the gift to the best man, is that you become the light of this world. And that's what we have to become. This is when people talk about, there's two different ways to express it, more of a spiritual way. And people talk about this as, we have to get from the 3D to the 5D. So we have to become our fifth dimensional form, which is a crystalline. They're absolutely right. They're telling the exact same story as a more conventional religious person would as well. It's the same story. We have to transform the pineal gland, which is a portal to God, from a vast desert wasteland, which it is when we don't use it, into what it becomes, solid rock. Mark Knopfler, Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler never wrote a single song that wasn't an absolute love song to God or an explanation of God's creation. And that song that he wrote, Making Movies, that album, stunning. Love Over Gold, that album, stunning. Even first, the Sultans of Swing, Sultans of Swing is he who can swing through the portal. So all of these things are not real. He didn't really do these things in a pub south of London. He went within himself, and then all of these experiences are rushing through him. So he's the Sultan. He's the Sultan of the swing, the dance. The swing is the sway, which is the dance with God, and the dance with God is this eternal meditation. It is.
Notes. So many things. I mean, you're like, it's like what I love listening to you speak. It's like, you remember the Enigma code machine. It's like somebody stuck the Bible in one end and then Charlie Freak came out the other. It's brilliant. But when you were talking about the breath of God, I watched for the first time White Squall last night.
Oh wow! Everyone has to watch that movie. So synchronicities that are going on with us doing this show today, Mark. Wow, the synchronicities.
No, watch it tonight. It's amazing. I watched it with my son. We were bawling our eyes out at the end.
That's the part I'm worried about.
Yeah, there's a few tears. But anybody watching this who doesn't know what that is, it's referenced to Where We Go One, Where We Go We Go All. It's referenced by the back channel. Yeah, sorry, Charlie, go on. The breath of God, though, the white squall. They didn't believe it's a mythical storm, isn't it? And it was just
a perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's a perfect storm. And again, it's an opportunity to reawaken and to do this right. Everybody sees the horror and the tragedy in it, but what everybody misses is how every single person declared themselves in that moment that they were on the right side of all of this, and they came together like a team, like they were all kings of men. All of those boys they were the lambs that became lions, and it was that white squall that changed them from so they didn't die. You think that of course not. That's not the reward for the righteous. That's not the reward for the lamb becoming the lion. Those kids became lions. That is a stunning movie. But to get through the movie without just a massive pain body, you have to know the whole story, because they only teach you one part of the story, and it's the bad part of the story. It's the sad part of the story. They don't ever teach you the wholeness of this story. You know, so Jesus is just the only true Son of God. What we are, goodness only knows. And that we're only here, literally, that's what the Catholic Church says. You're only here to sin. Keep sinning. It's okay. Jesus will stay on the cross, and you can just keep nailing nails into him everywhere. He'll stay on the cross, absolving your sins, because you're just a worthless sinner. Give us 10% of your wealth and buy into this bullshit, and we own you forever. The papal see, right? The SESKV Act of 1666. 666, and what happened in and around 1666? Suddenly, the Great Fire of London, and then the Great Black Plague, which was the original COVID, by the way. That's all it was. It was it was just the COVID.
I was just had a flashback then to when I went anywhere near a Catholic church. It was a bit like Damien in The Omen. He was screaming. He didn't want to go in. I hated going in those places and I thought that's because I was probably possessed by the devil. It was the other way around. I was the good guy and I didn't want to go in.
That's right.
I really hated it. It disgusted me. And I always had a really bad feeling about all of them. This is probably why I had a difficult relationship with God, because I had a difficult relationship with religion. And I knew that this religious organization had, abused me, abused my dad. All this stuff was there. But that's my journey, right? And finding your way back to God is just it's amazing. It really is amazing.
Mark, if I can just quickly interject something, let me say this, that starting on Friday, just through part of the Freak Sense family that we have, we're doing a show with Justin Carpenter and Marie Russell. And it's just going to be an ongoing show, which is the full explanation of the Bible, sort of decoding the Bible and explaining it in terms that everyone will understand. Reclaiming it. That's what Colleen says, and that's brilliant. Reclaiming the Bible, which is ours. And so in Matthew, and this is chapter 5 in the book of Matthew, the New Testament, and this is verse 20. And I said to Colleen today that this is one of the most, and everything that you just said, Mark. This is one of the most important passages in all of the Bible. And Jesus is saying, "For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees of the church, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven." How more plain and obvious do they have to make this? And so these are people that are sitting in a church giving 10% of their wealth as worthless sinners, and that passage probably gets missed all the time by the local priest. But right there in plain sight, it is saying that if you don't know the Bible any more than the scribes who write the Bible, and the Pharisees are those who teach the Bible, and the lawyers, by the way, are those who wrote out what the definition, what the meaning is. So the lawyers decoded
So they made the
Bible, they made the dictionaries. So these are the Jesuits. The lawyers would be the Jesuits telling the Pharisees how to teach it. And then the scribes are the ones who wrote it down. And the Bible clearly, plainly says in Matthew 5:20, if your understanding of the Bible is no greater than that of a scribe or a Pharisee, you are not getting into heaven. It's that simple, because they will block your road. They will block your path.
But here's how nefarious they are. You can't serve two masters, right?
That's right.
That's one of the, you just can't. You can't serve two masters. And so what they did was they infiltrated the good and godly. And they just slowly, insidiously, you started to serve this other master, and God was just slowly being oozed out of all of us. And it's just like, wow.
Absolutely. I mean, as you're saying those words, I'm feeling that happen. Looking back at my life, and I could see when that happened. And my great grandfather was one of my favorite ever people, and he was called Joseph Nightingale.
That's an amazing name.
I know. And so I named my first son after him. And he was tough, man. He was tough. And he used to climb the church steeple, change the weathercock without a rope. I don't know how he did it. I mean, it was really high. And he was a boxer and a runner and all of this. I saw him every day as a child because he lived near the school that I went to. So I'd see him in the morning and I'd see him in the afternoon. And I saw him every day, and I helped him gardening, and beautiful, wonderful man. And on his deathbed, when I was 11, he handed me the Bible, and this is the last thing he said to me. He said, "All the answers are in there." Wow. And I took that Bible off him, and he gave me another Bible, which came from the village church, which is about 300 years old. It's huge. It's like leather bound, and it's just I've only ever opened it a few times because it's so old. I've got that. That's been following me around for 40 years, and it's true. All the answers are in there, but not in the way that we're shown, because that's how they separated it all out. And it's quite a revelation. Well, this is the time of revelations now, right? The revelation, the understanding, the understanding. I mean, when I first heard you saying words like understanding, I have to be honest, I was like, I'm not sure about this, because I feel like it's like a cult thing. It's like they got this whole language thing, and I'm like, I was resisting it, going, because I just because I have a resistance to people talking about God in an open way, I think, because of my childhood experiences with it. But what you've given me is this incredible practicality about it all, and pretty much everything you say makes a huge sense. And I just want to thank both of you, but she's gone now, to look after a dog, presumably, or 2 or 10. So I know time, I really appreciate you taking the time for this, and I don't want to ramble too much, but what I would like to ask you, Charlie, is for anybody watching this that is stuck in a state of fear, or is stuck in a state of still 3D, for whatever term you want to call it, how, and what you're saying might frighten some people, right? So some people will be sitting there saying, well, I've got until April the 1st. Well, that's a bit strong. I've got to sort my life out in 4 weeks. What do you say to them? Is there enough time? Is there?
For sure, because linear time doesn't exist, right?
True.
So linear time is the great lie. That's again, that's the false Saturn, which wearing the crown of Chronos, which is crown. This Greek figure of Chronos ruled over the masses. He was few ruling the many, and he ruled them through this myth of linear time. where they kept worrying about what they had done that was a mistake or wrong or outright evil, and then it was going to affect their future. And so they skipped over the moment, and the only thing that exists is the moment. So you're a persona, you're a Persephone, you're a mask wearer, because you never know thyself, because you never live in the moment, because you're worrying about you're fretting about the past, worrying about the future, and you've completely eliminated the only thing that can possibly exist, which is the now. So in this process, all this means is that if on April 1st that you haven't cast thy net to the right, which is, like Mark is saying through the show, it is for many is a leap of faith, but you have to take this leap of faith, because, and I guarantee you that you will never, it's the fall. The fall doesn't kill you, it's the landing, and the landing is your belief. So it's the beliefs, your beliefs, that will kill you. It's not the fall that will ever kill you, because when you let go and you fall, you're falling in God's creation. He is the creator. There's no death in creator. There's no ending in creator. There's only creation. So when you fall and you let go, that's life. That's life. That's soaring. And then
the final bit is golden. That's
right. And when you stop, so there's a great scene in Guy Ritchie's version of Sherlock Holmes, the second one, where they're at the Reichenbach Falls, and Sherlock realizes that because Moriarty is his left brain to Sherlock's right brain, that they're equal of each other's abilities, that the only way is for Sherlock to selflessly sacrifice himself, Jesus Christ, for the many, and they fall over into the Reichenbach Falls. There's that great shot, and Guy Ritchie is just showing you everything in plain sight. So there's Moriarty freaking out, screaming, and he's in absolute rage. And what is Sherlock doing? His eyes are closed, his arms are wrapped to his chest, and he's in a deep meditation. He's in a place of knowingness. He's in a place of love and security. This is that leap of faith. That's the leap of faith. So only one can walk out of the Reichenbach Falls. Only one can walk out of the Reichenbach Falls.
Or Mount Doom.
Or Mount Doom, that's right, or wherever, because these are all parables, these are all allegories for this one journey. And so you have to get to the right side of this. Now, if you don't by April 1st, the worst thing that's going to happen to you is that you become the April Fool. And that all it means is that it's going to be harder for you. But again, God, the magenta pixie, inevitability. God is your Father, and all he wants is for you to choose to come to him. So you see, that's why we were gifted free will, because God doesn't want you to go to him out of fear, right? So the first thing that the Catholics are lying about the Bible, because he's angry all the time and he's killing and he's a jealous God and stuff. What the? That is just so sick. That is so sick, and that is so upside down from what it is. Free will exists so that you have to choose to end your wandering days, O prodigal one, and you must on your own return home. And once you make that decision to return back home, what does Tolkien show you in The Lord of the Rings? The trees will help you. The plants will help you. The eagles will help you. The wind will help you. The seas will help you. The rivers will help you. Everything is God's creation, and it all wants you to get back home. A little moth, Gandalf speaks to a little moth on the top of Isengard, who then goes and he tells Gwahir, the Lord of the Eagles, and then Gwahir comes and rescues Gandalf. Brilliant. They're all in it together. They're all in it together. We're all, that's right. And the only way to get her, which is the sacred feminine, which is the only way to, is to come together. And that's where we go one, where we go all comes to. We all have to stop raping this land. We all have to stop raping the mother, the sacred feminine energies. And we all have to start absolutely saying that it is, because with men and women, we're 50% masculine, we're 50% feminine. At the very end, there's this little thing that determines whether we come out, as a woman or as a man. But I mean, we're still basically exactly the same. So that's why all these rock songs, you know, like Styx and the Grand Illusion, you know, deep inside, we're all the same. We're deep, but that's what it is. It's deep inside. Deep inside, we're all the same. We are. The deeper you go within, the more you realize that we are all one, that we are all the same. So those that are on the wrong side of this come April Fools, you will suffer that of a fool, and your path will be a little longer and a little harder, but you'll get there. All you ever have to do is try. That's what we always say, is that ultimately, if all you ever learned from Colleen and I is to become virtuous, you'll get there. You don't need to watch us again.
You can't serve two masters. So at that point, when you realize that we've made mistakes, we made a mistake, we didn't cast our net to the right, we cast it to the left. Your ego doesn't want you to own any of that, right? So at that point, we have a choice. Do we give the 10% of our ego to God and then cast our net to the right? Put the 10% in the net and throw it to the right. Give it to God at that point, because we have to admit, you know what? We were led down a path. We absolutely were fooled, and we made some mistakes. Now it's time to make it right.
Own it. I like that expression. Own it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So look, I really appreciate you both, Charlie and Colleen, and I know that I've got to feed some children. You've got lots of things to do. I'm gonna end this with a story. What you just told me reminded me of something in my own life, and that was I went to the Red Devils, which is the parachute regiment's parachute display team. I went to their place in Aldershot in England to do a parachute jump when I was 19. And we spent 3 days learning how to jump and land and we had a really good time doing it. And then I got them in the back of this Islander airplane, and everybody's face was like this. All pretending that they were fine. Shit, we're taking off. So we took off, and all the training was to hook your parachute. The guy would grab your wire and hook it up. So it's called a static line, and it pulled your chute as you fell out, right? And 3 days of training to sit in the right position, look up here, 1, 2, 3, jump. That was what we were supposed to do, right? So it gets to me, and I'm looking at him like this, and he goes 1, 2, 3. He turns around to check the wire, and he turns around to go 1, 2, 3, and I've gone. And he looks outside the plane, and my legs are going like this. I just fell out the plane. My legs are flapping like this. All the training went out the window. I was completely I forgot everything. The plane was suddenly a dot in the distance, and then suddenly the parachute opened, and then it was this beautiful serenity. And then you've got 30 seconds or a minute to remember how to land. And I landed perfectly, and I looked up and go, wow, it was amazing. So the fall didn't kill me, even though I completely screwed it up. Yeah. But I did enough work on the landing to walk away from it. And
brilliant.
Yeah, so I just want to end on that because it made me laugh, because I think the allegory was literal in my own life. It's just fabulous to speak to you both. Hopefully I'll speak to you again. What's that? Overstanding, understanding, understanding. Yeah.
So that's the single eye. And so the understanding is the middle way, which is the mother, the heart chakra, 4 of 7. And the overstanding is when you overstand something, you stand over. That's the activation of the pineal gland, and you wear the crown. Those are your eyelashes are the crown of the inner light that you must become. But if you don't choose to learn things for yourself and then own it, which would then be the overstanding. So the learning is the understanding. The ownership of this truth that you've learned for yourself is the overstanding. Then you will always be an understanding, and you stand under them. And their rules are going to kill you. Their entire system is to own you and is to kill you.
Yep.
You can fight that, you can rail against that all you want, but it's the truth.
That is
everything
the truth.
they do is to kill you.
That is 100% the truth, which is why I'm doing this, because they ain't taking me alive.
Yep.
So God bless you both. Have a lovely day, and hopefully see you soon.
Thanks, Mark. Love you. Great show.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.